Hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson and welcome to this week's live webinar for the Investor Agent Training Program. Also for those who've gone through the Flipping for Profits program and Rental Profits program, welcome aboard. Most of you have been through, if you've been through either the latter two, you've already been through other programs already. So we're glad to have you back again and again. I appreciate that, and I also appreciate the opportunity to continue to teach, and I appreciate the implied endorsement for being in multiple programs. So, and for those of you who are pretty new, we're pretty conservative here. We want you to focus on the Investor Agent Training Program, which is where most of you are coming through. If you do have an interest in one of the other programs specifically related to, buying rentals or buying flips or managing rentals, just let me know. I'll probably try to talk you into not doing it too quickly, but focusing on this. But nonetheless, you deserve to have the conversation. So keep that in mind. In any case, what we're doing tonight, guys, as I mentioned last week and a couple of weeks prior to this, we've been going through all of the marketing campaigns. There's 18 of them. This is the 18th one. It's a little bit more complex than most of the others. In fact, probably all the others. It is going to take about 4 weeks to basically unfold this for you. And so it really is important if you start off on this, if you embark on this project, even if you have to miss one of the next 3 or 4 webinars, don't worry, just get the recording and you can download it and watch it and listen to it anytime you want. It's forever. You can also use the online application that Paul showed us, the web developer showed us, where you can strip off the audio and make an MP3, and that way you can listen to it in your car when you're driving, okay? So in any case, just to recap, particularly for the new folks, welcome aboard, by the way. And what we do on these webinars are typically, they're always live, by the way. They're unscripted, unfiltered, and stuff comes up sometimes, and you're going to hear and see the good, the bad, and the ugly, okay? But what we do is we pick subjects, we pick categories that you guys tell us you want to focus in on. So we had a lot of people asking us back around the holidays, and then between Thanksgiving and December and Christmas, early January, they just wanted to focus on the marketing. So what we did is we got through the first set of material in the month of January, which is the basics, modules 1 and 2. I don't think we really touched on module 3 too much. But then we get into marketing, and we've been into marketing ever since, okay? And these next 4 weeks are going to give you an advanced technique. Even if you're new, don't worry. You definitely want to listen and pay attention, because you're going to learn a lot, because each of the next 4 weeks we're going to dig into material that's directly related to the training material. You're just going to learn how to apply it in a classroom scenario for investors. And if you feel intimidated right now, don't worry about it. We've had plenty of people do it before you. And we've even had people do it who've never bought an investment property their entire lives. So, in any case, a couple of points here. If you're pretty new, you're in your first 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, I highly encourage you to go to the website once you have your membership login and password. You have access to all of the previously recorded webinars. I highly encourage you to go back to late January and start downloading them and listen to them. Don't have to beat yourself up, but maybe one additional one per week. And it's going to reinforce the marketing. And then when you get to module 4, when you get that module delivered to you, you'll be far more informed, and you'll do a much better job of choosing the appropriate marketing campaign for your first one or second or third, whatever the case is. So in any case, let's first things first. I want to make sure everybody has this on their screen. It's the school report. And if you have your training material with you, you can also find it in your training materials. It would have been delivered with module 1. And if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to make a picture of it. If you haven't created a school report for yourself, I highly encourage you to ask your market center to create it for you. That's one of the things we strongly suggest, because then only one person creates it, and the entire market center can benefit from having that at their fingertips. So we're going to start here tonight. We're going to start off first by assuming that you have candidates that will come to a classroom that you're going to put on. Now, when I say assuming, we're going to get in a little bit more into how do you actually promote this campaign. okay, as we go through the next 4 weeks. So right now, we're going to assume that you've already promoted it. You've got some clients. You've got some people who want to be clients. You've got some brand new people who want to invest, and you know that they need a little more direction and structure and guidance. Okay. So what you do is you do the same thing that you do to promote a workshop, and you promote a class. You promote a classroom scenario. All right. Now the structure of the classroom is as follows. It's essentially a 4-week program. So any investors that you attract and you're going to put a classroom on, make sure they understand that it's a commitment for 4 weeks. And you want to meet at a neutral site. I suggest neutral site like a library or a school, your local church or mosque or synagogue if you're a member, or your municipal building in the community room. Okay. Now you can use your office. You can use your real estate office. Most of you are KW, some of you are not. I will give you my opinion on using your office as a location for a workshop or a class. It will work, but a lot of consumers out there, as soon as they drive up and they see the big giant, Remax or Caldwell Banker or Keller Williams, it may create even a subconscious barrier for you that you've got to overcome. You've got to get over that hurdle, because you're not going to all of a sudden you're going to think, well, maybe this is some kind of a salesy thing, right? Now, the ultimate goal for you is to obviously build a client base. There's no doubt about it. But the way you're going about it is the honorable, ethical way of providing instruction and guidance. So as such, I recommend use a neutral site. That way you eliminate the potential for that barrier, okay? Now, if you've studied how to do a workshop, you already understand the basics of how to use meetup.com to help facilitate your promotional activities. It's not everything, but it certainly is a very big part, and it does a lot for us. It helps us a lot. Thank goodness for that, for meetup.com. So in any case, we're going to assume at this point you've done all that. You've got a room of, say, 10 to maybe 20 people on the outside. I would caution you to not have too many people in there. All right, especially your first classroom scenario, smaller is better. Okay, and also if you have a partner, this is a great partner technique, because one of you could be up front teaching and providing guidance, and the other could be roaming the room helping the students out on an individual basis. Okay, so in any case, let's get right to it. And again, if you have questions on how to promote it and market it, don't worry, we got 4 weeks to cover this. Pose your questions to me, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty detail as much as you guys need. Okay. So the first thing I want to show people is the school report. I'm going to reduce my panel here, so I'm not going to see for a few minutes. I'm not going to see if you type in questions. I've got to see my full screen. Okay. All right. Everybody has seen this, and everybody who has sat through a class that I taught at the market centers, I know has seen this because it's part of the class that I teach for agents. Okay. And also investors, by the way, too, for that matter. So the first thing you want to do is have your school report created, and you want to print off as many copies as you need for your class. So if you have 10 people attending, you're going to need 11 copies of this, so 10 for your students and 1 for yourself. Okay. And what you want to do is explain how this school report works. And I'm going to just briefly repeat this. Everybody should know this by now, but let me briefly repeat it. Obviously, up top is your school districts or school codes. Okay. You can also use high school. And if you're up in Canada, you can't use school information, so you can use your MLS area, or you can use the first 3 digits of your postal code, okay, in Canada. And a matter of fact, for those of you who are up there, I will be back in Canada, let's see here, the Memorial Day weekend. That's when I'm going to be up there. I'll be up there at the end of that week, Thursday the 26th, is that right? My gosh, what's going to be a ways. And I'll be there all the way through Monday, Memorial Day. So in any case, back to the class. So the school district is the heading for your report. Again, it could be zip code, could be area, MLS area, could be high school code, could be postal code. For each area, we want to have a column for active, what's actively listed on the MLS, and a column for sold, what's sold in the last 90 days. And you want to present that in price bands, $50,000 up to $500,000 and $100,000 after that. Now, if you're in certain parts of around Toronto or Vancouver, British Columbia, or around San Francisco or LA, you might want to make your bands $100,000 straight through, because you're not going to have a lot of volume at the lower levels. Okay, so if you're in a place like Dayton, Ohio, you're going to be hard pressed to have any volume past 500,000. Excuse me. All right, but essentially, you want to be able to explain this to your class participants so they understand that in the case of flipping. So tonight we're going to focus on flipping, by the way. In the case of flipping, they can see clearly over here is where all the activity is. Okay, people are selling, in other words, active listings, and people are buying. So you got that unique combination of sellers and buyers, and that's where you want to flip homes. Now, this is one page of maybe a 25-page report. You just want to show them a couple of examples and let them go through the rest of the report and find the other possible areas that make sense for flipping homes. In this case, it's going to be Seneca, roughly between 150 and 300,000. Okay, you can see active and sold. That's a pretty good sweet spot for people who want to flip homes, right? So you show them that. You basically show them this, get them comfortable with this. When we teach this in class, it takes a half hour. So you want to take as long as you need to explain this to your class participants, okay? Now, I'm not going to go into any more detail on that because everybody should understand school report by now. And if you don't, please review your material and let me know if you need further help. I just went over that today with a student, and I don't mind at all. The point is we're together for an entire year. Let's make sure we understand everything thoroughly so that we can take full advantage of it. So the next thing you show them is how to use melissadata.com to plug in zip codes. Now, if you're up in Canada, there's a different technique we use. We use the Canadian Postal Service. There's a marketing campaign in Canada that we use also. We've gone over that a lot. If anybody in Canada needs me to go over that, just please shoot me a message or email me or text me, and I will do that. Okay. In any case, you just show them, here's how this works. There's a good example of an area that's great for flipping because there's no rentals and there's a lot of owner occupants. There's a lot of single family homes in there and good price ranges. Okay. And remember that you can click on these postal area, the carrier route areas, CO1 through 7 are carrier routes, and they blow up a map view that you can then create an MLS search on. So you show them that once they know the combination of price range, excuse me, I'm going to jump back here, price range and school district, okay, you go to your melissadata.com, plug in the zip codes for that area, or in the case of Canada, postal codes, right, one per screen, and find the neighborhoods, i.e. carrier routes, that have prices, homes priced specifically in the price ranges that make sense to flip homes. That's the next step. And the final thing you want to show them is your planning commission website data. Now, most libraries, municipal buildings, they're all equipped with internet, so you definitely want to bring your computer, okay? And you can even have your students bring their computers, their laptops, and as you go through this information, they can bring it up on their own computers, okay? Remember, every area has a planning commission website, and they just plug it whatever county you're in North America. And by the way, this is true in U.S. and Canada, okay? You just have to locate your local planning commission website. They're at the municipal level, municipality level, and also at the county level. I recommend the county level websites. That's what I recommend, okay? So you want to show them these things first. This is just like I taught you guys. You want to teach your consumers, your prospects, the same exact thing that you've learned so that they're now informed, educated consumers. And those are your best consumers, okay? So that's the basics. We always start there. All right, now let's assume that we are focusing on rentals. So let me page down here. I did get to page, I'm almost there. Hang on one second. I'm going to page 57 for me, which is page 49 for you. Okay. All right, let's take a quick breath here. And I'm going to bring the panel over so I can see the attendee list and also check for questions. So hang on one second. So far, so good. Again, if you have questions, please type them in your question box, okay? And that's how I can read your question. Let me check the attendee list here real quick just to make sure everybody is on board. Everybody seems to be okay. We got a lot more people signing in. That's great. Okay. Oh, we got some really brand new people here. Holy smokes. Janice Clever. Hi, Janice. Janice is probably the newest person on. Okay. And then Greg Covington, you're probably the senior, again, most veteran agent. So in any case, back to this. We're going over the classroom scenario if you logged in late. All right. And the first thing you want to do when you set up your class is, again, being that it's 4 parts, we go over flipping first because flipping is easiest. Now, I'm going to tell you something here that's going to make you wonder, why do we teach flipping first? All right. It turns out, and by the way, I got some information from Rhonda Stanton today that it was only for California, but it bears out what I've been teaching in the classrooms, which is I think everybody should be focusing on rentals. I'm not saying ignore flips, but I think you should have a little bit more emphasis on rentals, you and your clients. In places like Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it's 46% tenant occupied, okay? Across North America, the average is about 1/3, about 33%. In some areas it's higher, some areas it's lower. In fact, in the California data, it told us that it's 40% tenant occupied. So if you're in California, boy, definitely, matter of fact, Rhonda, would you mind if I shared that email you sent with that webinar from the California Association of Realtors? If you could let me know that, I'll have Beverly send it out to everybody. Okay, even if you're not a Californian, it's eye-opening information. So, in any case, we start with flips first, and the reason is it's the easiest technique to teach. We're going to teach rentals next, okay? But that's going to be next week. For tonight, we're going to focus on flips. And so far, we've given everybody the first 3 steps: school report, melissadata.com, and planning commission website. And remember, you've got to teach your consumers this. You've got to teach your prospects this information. Then once you've done that, and you're likely to get questions, it's going to take you at least a half hour. Okay, that's the average. The next thing you want to show them is the fundamentals of flipping, and that's all we're going to go over tonight. As I'm going to give you a high-level view, and when you guys are ready to do the classroom scenario, if you haven't done a flip before, you won't need to. I promise you it's not going to be necessary. You're going to be able to walk the talk. And here's the first part of the talk that you want to give to your consumers who are interested in flipping, and we call it the ARV. ARV is after repair value, okay? And what that means is that's what we project or perceive to be the future market value of the property once it's been remodeled, okay? It's what we call the market value of a property that's fully in service and just has reasonable wear and tear and does not need any major overhaul. It does not need a new kitchen, roof, bathroom, windows, any of that kind of stuff. It's a pretty much a arm's length transaction and move-in condition. Everybody's happy, okay? Now, the reason that's important is when you're buying a property to flip, or your consumers are, you've got to understand what is the ARV for that area. What is the market value of the average home in the area where you're flipping? And you got to know that by property type. So a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch home, for the most part in an area with a 1 or 2-car garage is going to be essentially in the same price range in the way we go about determining the areas. Whereas a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-story home is going to also be in its own particular price range, okay? So that's what I mean. You got to find out what that is for the area. What's the average or the norm? And then no matter what you do with your clients, no matter what they do, what decisions they make, they can never have more than 70% of that ARV tied up in the property. So if you have an ARV, let's just use a flat, easy number, $100,000. I don't know if you can find that anywhere in the country anymore. Well, maybe Dayton, Ohio, because their average is 70,000. But let's, for the sake of the class here, let's say you use the example of a property in an area where the average for that property is $100,000, after repair value. What that means is your consumer, your investor, cannot have more than $70,000 tied up into the property. That's purchase plus remodeling. Okay, so you just want to explain that to them. And again, I'm not here to teach you tonight the details of how to actually flip a home. What I'm doing is I'm teaching you how to present this to your clients, to your prospects in the classroom. Okay, and you got to explain ARV right out of the gate, because if you don't do that, a lot of other stuff you're going to teach them is not going to make a lot of sense. Okay, now what I'm going to do right now, guys, is I'm going to take the time to go through the steps that you walk through with any client that you work with. And the reason is you have to in turn instruct your clients how to do this very same thing. So if you look in your manual, you'll see on page 50, okay, this is going to be module 2 now. If you haven't got module 2, don't worry, you'll get it. You'll see the precursor. This is the step-by-step instructions you follow for working with flippers. So you have to learn this yourselves, guys. So I'm going to spend time going over tonight. And you've got to learn it such that you can guide your clients through the same exact process. Okay? So everybody make sure you have your pens and pencils handy. In your notes, if you're new, by the way, what most students do is when they get their material, you get the audio video recording, and you also get the written material. What I recommend is you just buy a 3-ring binder. It's Staples. It's very inexpensive. And every week when you get a new module, you print it off and keep it in there with your notes. And you actually build your manual as you go. It's a cathartic way to reinforce all the information. We call it experiential training. If we just gave everything to you, delivered on a silver platter, the checklist and everything, your retention rate would not be where it needs to be. We have you actually create this stuff yourself as you go through the program, so that it further reinforces the learning experience and you're more likely to take action. That's why we do it this way. Okay, back to the material. So one of the first things you want to do in your very first session, remember this, so you're putting on a 4-week class. So during the first week, the first class of the first week, once you've introduced the basics, okay, what we went over earlier, school report, Melissa data, and planning commission website, and then you show them why the ARV is so critical, what that means and why it's so important. Then you want to go over this. You're going to show them, hey guys, this is how we're going to work together, and this is what's going to allow you to be successful when you're flipping homes, okay? And this is the exact process. So if you haven't gone over this, I highly recommend you go over it a number of times. I don't mean just read it, but I mean actually practice it. Practice it on your own computer on yourself, because this piece right here, these 12 steps, this is what's going to determine above everything else how successful you're going to be. All right, it's that critical. So in any case, assuming you have your classroom and people say yes, I want to do this, I want to work with you. You obviously have to interview them. So that's the first thing we do. We have a telephone interview, and we determine what it is they're interested in doing. We qualify them, okay, and then we have them email us with a recap of the conversation. Now we have a new student, Kate Wells, did this. She literally went through the class last Tuesday, signed up for the training program on Wednesday, and Thursday morning I woke up to a wonderful text message saying she did what I described here and actually got her first client, who was already getting qualified to purchase two investment properties, literally on day 1 of the training program. And that's what I mean. When I say that this is important and critical, boy, I'm deadly serious, okay? So please take that to heart, and make sure you master these techniques, the next 12 steps. So you've done that, you've got your phone interview, they sent you a recap of the conversation. At that point, it's not in here, but you want to get your buyer's agency agreement signed, okay? And then you set them up on the MLS system for properties that are in their area. You're not doing any screening yourself here. You're just basically sending them all the properties in the areas that you've identified on your school report and melissadata.com that look like they make sense for finding inventory for flipping. Okay, and again, this is just MLS is just one way to find information, properties. We're using the other techniques to find other properties outside the MLS. In fact, that was another great statistic in today's report that Rhonda shared was, and it emphasizes what I teach is that the majority of your properties for your investors are not going to come from the MLS guys. Okay. So, but this is how you train them. This is how you start them out. So in any case, you set them up on the MLS to get full listings. Don't give them the short version, the realtor version, or the email version. Give them the full-blown listing, every single thing. Okay. Now, the first thing you're going to teach them to do is how to go through the properties. Excuse me. How to go through the properties and separate basically the wheat from the chaff. Okay. So, and I'm going to give that little instruction to you now so you know what it is what you're going to be doing, because I want you to practice yourself. So let's say you set up a search for 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes in a number of school districts in certain price ranges that make sense, and you get, several dozen listings. There's no way you're going to look at every listing. Number one, there's no way you're going to do any in-depth analysis on every listing either, or neither were your clients. So you have to narrow that list down in a methodical way, almost a scientific way, but it's not very scientific. I promise you, it's not very complex. Okay. The first thing we do is, if you should know what the market values are for your area. Once you determine your areas, you should have a pretty good idea of price ranges based on property type, what 3-bedroom, 2-bathrooms are generally worth, what 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-story homes are generally worth. Okay. And some of you on your MLS systems actually have that market value available to you because it comes on your county's tax assessment database. They'll give you an assessor's value, value for tax assessment purposes, and also a full market value in the case of a supposed sale. If that's the case, you've got the information. I would still take the time when you're going through and doing your homework with your client, determine what those values are anyway, so you know what they are. And the reason that's important is you're going to compare that with the list price, what the asking price is of the listing. And right out of the gate, anytime we have a property with a listing price that's equal to or greater than what we believe to be fair market value, or ARV, we eliminate it. We're not even going to waste our time. We're not going to get into the game of making 50% of list price offers. That's just a huge waste of time. Okay. So you want to eliminate all those properties. It's going to dramatically cut down the list of properties that you're going to spend more time on. But that's the first thing you do, is separate out and throw away all properties that are priced at or above what you believe to be market value for that type property in that area. Okay. Second round, we're going to go through the properties that remain. Okay. And you're going to start looking more closely at photographs, at the size of the yards, the sizes of the rooms, and other critical characteristics. So if it's a ranch house, it better at least have a full kitchen, full dining room, full living room, and hopefully a basement, depending on where you are in the country. Most parts of the country have a basement. Unless you're on the coast, a lot of East Coast properties close to the ocean do not have basements. Okay. Any case, you're going to go through and look at the pictures and look at the room sizes. Make sure you don't have a room that's a 8 by 10 or some kind of really tiny room like that. Whatever, if you find those, you want to eliminate those. Basically, what you're doing is you're narrowing down your list of properties that you're going to be looking at with your clients further and further and further to reduce that number as much as possible. Okay, so you go through and look at all that, and this is going to take a couple of passes. Okay, let's say that was the second pass. You want to go through a third pass and further eliminate properties that will have the least likelihood of turning a profit, because one of the things you can do is you can go to your county's tax assessment database, plug some of those properties in, and see what the assessor has to say about them. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is get that list down to, say, 10 to 15 properties. If your client can't get it that far, or even if they can, you also want to have your clients go do drive-bys of the area and looking at the properties in the area, because a lot of times they'll see quickly within a frame, maybe a fraction of a second, that something looked good online, but it doesn't look the same way in person. and there's no way that thing is going to make a good project, because the list price is going to be too high relative to the fact that it may need a roof and new windows and new siding and all kinds of stuff. Okay, that's just the external view. So the bottom line is this: you're going through the listings and you're going through 2 or 3 rotations to eliminate as many properties as possible, so that you end up with enough that your clients can reasonably drive by in a morning or afternoon. Okay, and then they're going to narrow that list down again further by half. And here's where you play a stronger role. Let's say they get it down to 10 to 12 properties. For here it says 10 to 15 properties. Okay, there's no way you're going to look at 10 to 15 properties. You want to try to get that number down to somewhere between 5 and 7 properties. The average is 6. Okay, and the way you do that is you tell your clients, you say, okay, once you narrow it down to 10 to 15 properties, please send me the MLS numbers of those properties. And then you're going to go through those 10 or 15 properties yourself and look through them. You're not going to eliminate anything at this point. What you're going to do is you're going to email your client back, or you could call them and say, we need to narrow this down so we can look at 6 properties. Therefore, I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on some of these properties and see if you don't agree that we can make an A list and a B list. And you may never need the B list. You might end up never having to use it. In most cases, you won't. But instead of making them feel bad that you're going to throw properties away, just call it the B list, okay? And you're going to focus on the A list. So you get that down to, say, 6 properties. Those are the 6 properties you want to go look at. And so far, you're going through a little bit of a painstaking effort that's taken, 3 hours in an afternoon to narrow this down. But it all happens pretty quickly. Trust me, once you get this down, you're going to go through this process very quickly. So now you get it to the final 6 properties, say. You've got to call and make the appointments, and you want to go see those properties as soon as you possibly can. You should always be scheduling your clients, and I'll tell you exactly what to do. Every Wednesday, you should send an email out to your clients, giving them your schedule for the following week, and tell them they need to choose one of those time slots. At that point, you either give them a brand new set of listings, or you do what we call a refresh, so that they can go through the properties between Thursday and Friday, go through them online, and then take Saturday or Sunday to do the drive-bys, and then email you Sunday night so that you have time to set up the showings for whatever day they're going to look at them, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever the case is, okay? You go look at those properties, all right, with your client, and now you're looking at the best prospects, the best properties that have the highest likelihood of returning a profit for your client. Those are the ones you go look at. Okay, so you go through the properties, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Just you know how to walk through a house. Okay, and when we go into specifics of buying flips and specifics of buying rentals in later webinars, we go through the particular nuances of what you actually look for, and in what order you look. You always look at external items first, and you look at internal items. In other words, you look at the yard, the roof, the siding first, windows, and then you go on the inside, look at your furnaces and water tanks and things like that, and then you look at the kitchens and bathrooms, and then finally you look at carpeting and doors, and you know the routine. If you haven't gone through that, we'll be going through it in your material, so don't worry. What you're trying to do, though, when you're on site at the properties is get that down to somewhere between 1 and 3 properties, okay? Any more than that, 4 or more, that means it's just probably too many. I mean, that's great if there really are legitimately 4 final prospective investment properties, or 7 or 6, whatever the case is, but that's very rare. Generally, your client's only going to be able to buy 1, and you've got to get that final 6 down to 1. And what you do is you have them fill out their forms, the rehab forms, the call sheets, everything at the properties while they're going through, okay? And then here's the final piece I want to remind you of. At the end of the day, and you've looked at your 6 properties, you never ever say, hey, that was a good day, call me when you're ready to make a move. Don't ever, ever, ever do that. What you do is you say, look, it's been a great day. Let's determine right now where we go from here. Let's pull out the 6 properties, and let's go through some comparisons. And there's 2 ways to go about this. I'm going to give you both ways, and you can decide which way you're more comfortable with. Option A is you lay out all 6 properties side by side. If you got a truck, you lay down your tailgate. If you've got a car, you do it on your trunk. Or if it's too darn hot, like in South Florida, then you go to a local Starbucks. Okay. The bottom line is you need to be able to spread out. You lay out all 6 properties and you have them go through one at a time and say, okay, when you look at these 6 properties, which one, if you did not buy it, if you can only buy 5 of these 6, which one would you be most likely not to buy, or which one could you most easily live without? And you eliminate that property. Now you're down to 5. Then you do the same thing again. As you can see, this will take a little while. One of the easier ways which is option B, is you don't look at all 6 at the same time while you're spread out on the table. You just make a stack of the 6 listings, and you take the top 2 and can put them side by side and let the client go through their notes and their cost sheets, rehab sheets, their cash flow sheets, whatever the case is, and determine right there which one do they believe is going to be more likely to profit them if they purchase it. And you take the other one, you draw a big X through it, and if you really want to be demonstrative about it, ball it up and throw it away, so they can see that it's going away. They're no longer going to look at it, right? And then you compare the surviving property with another property, and you do that until you get down to 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 properties. All right. So now we're really getting closer. This is all on the same day, by the way, and this all happens fast. It doesn't take that long. Now, the next thing you do is this. You definitely want to be at your computer to write offers, especially these days with all the technology. It doesn't make sense to hand write offers right there on the spot. Plus, you need to give your client time to go home, review and revise their numbers on the final property or the final 2 or the final 3, whatever the case is. Okay. And what you do is you set an appointment for that night. And I suggest you make it like 9 o'clock at night. So they have children, the children are in bed. And if you looked at 6 properties, they probably need to stop and eat dinner and feed their children and do homework. So give them a chance to do that. But make sure you don't let the day go by without getting back on the phone with them to review the revised cost sheets and cash flow sheets and MAO sheets, what have you. Okay. And you got to narrow that down to one property that they're going to make an offer on. If they have the money and the credit to do 2 and they want to buy 2, by all means, then write 2 offers, okay? But here's where this program is different than everything you hear from all the late night investor gurus who are teaching their clients, their investors, to make a whole bunch of offers. That's just ridiculous. This is the high percentage shot. You're only going to make offers on properties that your client is intending to buy, okay? Don't ever forget that. I know people it's going to take some time to get used to that because you're used to making multiple offers and hoping one will stick. But I can promise you, you're going to pay for that down the road in your reputation. Okay, your reputation is vital. And professional people don't make offers if they don't intend to follow through. If your client can only buy 1 property, then you make 1 offer. All right. So, in any case, you get that nailed down to the final property on the phone with them. You can be looking at it on your computer too. You have them scan it to you and email it, what have you, or fax it to you. So you're looking at the same thing at the same time. All right. And then they commit to the final property. You get them, and they're doing the decision making, not you. You're just guiding them through the process. But then they'll say, okay, yep, this is the final one. And then what you do is you take control back and you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and write the offer now. I'm going to send it to you. It's going to take me about 15 minutes or a half hour. Please print it off, sign it, and initial it where indicated. Make a photocopy of a hand money check for whatever the earnest money is going to be, or hand money wherever you are. In North America, some people call it something differently depending on what region you're in. And also provide the latest proof of funds. If they're going to have to get a loan, they got to show that they've got a pre-qual letter from a bank. Or if they're using a line of credit, they got to show that there's an available funds in the line of credit. Bottom line is offer, hand money, and proof of funds. Now you've got what you need to actually submit an offer to the other agent. All right. And that's the process you go through, guys. So I want you to remember that, embrace it, internalize it, practice it on yourself, get used to it, because you're going to have your clients go through this. And this is what you're going to show them the first of the 4-week program that you're going to be putting on. You're going to show them this in that first week at the end of the first class. Okay. All right. Let me take a quick pause here and check for questions. So give me a second to do that. All right. Let's go here. Hang on one second. Okay. So far, oops, here we go. This is from Glenn. Hey, Glenn. RPR now offers school reports, although I haven't checked them out yet. Yeah, Glenn, check them out because they're popping up. But what they are is they're giving you school reports that are really based. It's good that they're basing it on school information, but they're focusing on what school areas get the highest rankings, the highest ratings. Because you've got blue ribbon elementary schools. And school districts have different reputations, so you have to make sure that the data that they're putting in the report, and there's all kinds of variations, just make sure it reflects accurately volume and velocity. What I mean by that is it reflects how many properties are available in any particular area, and also how fast they're selling. Days on market, velocity, absorption reports, whatever you want to call it. I generally don't like ratios and statistics. I like raw data because then I can determine what the ratio is. But the raw data is what gives you what you need. You can't argue with the actual source of the data. The actual number of listings, the actual number of solds is critical when it's in price range, given to you in price range, and within specific school districts or high school areas or MLS areas or zip codes, or in Canada postal code areas. So whatever you're putting up at the top there, again, we use the example of school district. That's how you need to have the data presented to you. In any case, I hope that helps you guys. Let me do a quick check here again. Oops, let's see, more questions. I think we're okay on questions. Okay, so let me get into the next thing here. Now remember, just a quick review, this is the first of 4 classes that you're going to be putting on for your prospects. Okay, the first one is you're going to teach them the fundamentals of flipping. So you've got them to commit to this now. They understand the process, this 12-step process that you're going to use to work with them. And this is what's going to make your life a whole lot easier, okay, and help them be a lot more profitable. So let's see, I need to go to page 60. For me, it's page 65. And I think for you guys, it is page 57. Yes. Okay. All right. So you've already explained to them what the ARV is. That's a repair value and why it's so important. That's actually that ARV. I tell you guys, you nail that and you're guaranteed success. If you don't get that right, if your projected ARVs are too high, you'll be paying, your clients will be paying too much for properties, and you'll be listing them for too high of a price. Okay. If your ARVs are too low, what that means is you're going to be competing yourself out of business, because that means your offers for your clients will be too low. You'll never get any offer accepted. Okay. So it really has to be spot on. I mean, it's like the old saying. When you advertise properties for sale, you can have the best marketing on the planet, but if the price isn't right, the price isn't right. The price has to be right, and there's nothing that'll sell a property better, more quickly, and for the closest to list price than having the accurate price anyway. So in any case, enough said about ARV. The next term we're going to give them is called MAO, Maximum Allowable Offer, MAO. All right, and you can see here the MAO formula. All right, and we'll go over this. Okay, essentially ARV. Let's say your client is flipping a home in a neighborhood where the average value of a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch is $100,000, and that's the exact house that they're flipping. 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch, and it's in that same neighborhood, so they should all sell somewhere around $100,000. Okay. Now, right out of the gate, you've got to subtract 30%. That 30%, even though it says cost, it actually represents profit. Out of this 30, profit is about 20%, and the other 10 is going to be overhead, commissions, carrying costs, and so forth. All right. So now you're down to $70,000. That your client cannot have more than $70,000 tied up in that property, and that's purchase price plus remodeling costs. Okay. So now you're 70%, in this case $70,000. Then your client has to add up the projected costs of the repairs. In other words, what's it going to cost to remodel this property? And let's say it's $10,000. Now you subtract $10,000 from the remaining balance. So you've got $100,000 minus 30%, which is $30,000, leaves you a remainder of $70,000. Okay. From that 70, you're going to subtract the cost of repairs or remodeling. In this case, we said it's going to be $10,000. That leaves you with a maximum allowable offer of $60,000. That's the most your client can pay for that property, okay, in order to remodel it properly and put it on the market correctly priced at $100,000. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Gary, how can we find those properties when we just said, we want to make good offers on properties that are not 50% off on list price? And that's true. That's absolutely correct. But remember, you're not buying properties at full ARV, because full ARV implies that they're already completely in service and ready to rock and roll. They've already got new kitchens and new carpeting and so forth. What you're looking for is the properties that are need repairs. Okay, maybe they're foreclosures, maybe they're estate sales, maybe there's a divorce going on, maybe there's a landlord needs to sell because he's been through too many evictions and he's tired of it. Maybe there's a decedent someone's passed away, so there's a probate. Maybe there's foreclosure, maybe there's bankruptcy. Or it just quite simply could be a property that, while it's in decent repair, it's just very dated, and it might not be, a huge discount on ARV from the rest of the area. It's enough that your client can work with, okay? The bottom line is you have to arrive at your MAO, maximum allowable offer, and that's how you arrive at it. We just described it there. Now, for good measure, you always want to leave some room for negotiating. Now, this number here, this variable, we call it a variable, is in today's market probably too high. There are certain parts of the country still, in Georgia, Florida, Texas, Utah, Kentucky, where they still have, there's certain pockets that still have inventory problems, including, by the way, North Carolina. There's a number of areas like that. So you can add a little cushion to your offer, reduce the offer by another percentage to give yourself some breathing room for you and your client. Okay. Now, if you're in a fast-moving market, you're not going to be able to reduce your MAO by 15% on your initial offer. You're just not going to be able to do it. You won't be competitive. Okay. So in a tight market, you might drop it down by 5%. All right. In other areas, it might be 10%. You'll know, because you'll have a pretty good idea of the area, how many properties are going to multiple offers. Also, what the days on market is. If properties are moving fast, you're going to have to pay pretty darn close to MAO. Now, I know people who will exceed the MAO so that they can compete more and get more properties. And I actually did that myself a few times, and I learned to not do that. Okay? No matter how excited you become over a property or your client, never violate maximum allowable offer, because what that means is now you're cutting into your 30%. You're cutting into your profit and overhead. Now, having said that, there are some exceptions. Like if you're in a fast-moving market, and days on market is like ridiculous, like less than 20 days, okay, you can push the market by 10% on the upside. So your ARV, you can add 10%, okay, when you go to resell it after being remodeled. What that means is you can go above MAO slightly if you want to, go above at 5%. That's what I mean by there is an exception, just like every rule has an exception, okay? All right, now let me do a quick pause here because I see some people getting excited and typing in questions. Okay, we got a number of them, so hang on here, guys. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Rhonda. I just saw your comment to share that. I appreciate that. Okay, Raymond McGill says, you're describing the first seminar full of investors, not what you would do with each investor. Yes, so Raymond, right. This is what I'm describing to you is what you're going to be doing in a classroom scenario. Okay, and I suggest keep the number low. Keep it to 10 people, 20 at the absolute most. Some of you guys have already been trainers before. We have a new student. I don't know if he's on tonight, Walt, um, from Plantation, Florida. He's a professionally trained trainer. He can probably handle 20 people, all right? And some of you also online, I know you've trained before also in different capacities. But for most people, just keep it to 10 or 12 people. Okay, this is Mara. Hi, Mara. Mara says, are new investors likely to ask how will they get the property fixed up? We can recommend vendors for fix. Yes. So Mara, what I generally do is any area that I've gone to where I've stayed long enough, that is, to invest myself or teach, I actually will join a local RIA group. I'm a member of RIA, and I can pretty much go into any RIA meeting anywhere in the North America. And what you want to do, everybody, Mara and everyone here, is always ask the other investors. Make sure you shake hands, introduce yourself, meet people, and ask people, hey, who do you like for a plumber? Who do you like for an electrician? Who do you like for a carpeting guy? Who do you like for a painter? Who do you like for a roofer? Ask all those questions and take names and look and see if you can get at least 3 names for each category of vendor. Okay. So when you're working with your clients and they're asking you, hey, I want to flip a home, but how do I get the thing fixed up? Who do I use? You can now recommend people. You can refer them to people. You got to be careful here. And what you say is, here's a list of 3 plumbers that come recommended to me from the local investors club. I haven't used them. All I can tell you is other people have, and they've been pleased with their results. I suggest you do your due diligence and check them out. And always instruct your clients, by the way, and just use that script verbatim if you want. But always have your clients do a thorough due diligence on any vendor. Check out the background. Make sure they got transportation tools, insurance, in some cases bonding, right? Like electricians typically have to be bonded, so do plumbers. But at a minimum, they need insurance. Okay, so good question, by the way. Thank you, Mara, for bringing that up. Okay, this is Ray says, you said it. Okay, whatever it was, I covered it. Thanks, Ray. Okay, Mara says, okay, do they manage to fix up, or does an agent manage that process? Yeah, Mara, I tell you what, I'm going to give you the correct answer is you should not be managing your clients' remodeling projects. I have had students in the past who've created separate LLCs so they could act as a general manager, a general contractor, and manage clients' rehab projects for them. The challenge I have with that is that's one area that's fraught with risk. It's one thing to offer property management. That makes sense, okay, and I would endorse that all day long. But when you offer a rehab business, man, you're involving other third parties that you really have no control over. You can have some leverage. You get them a lot of business. They make sure they do a good job, all that. That's true. But you don't know who they're going to hire as their subs, and if they're going to be as diligent as you are in the screening process. So, and what I'm getting at is I've had students who have done that, and I think I can only think of one who really did it well, successfully, and continues to this day. Most of them get right out of it right away because they realize it is fraught with headaches and risk and chews up an inordinate amount of your time. And quite frankly, you're just not making a lot of money on it. Your time is far better spent earning commissions and eventually investing yourself or offering property management. Okay, so I hope I didn't just completely pop a bubble or anything there. We have had people do it, Mara. But remember, you're a broker and hopefully eventually an investor and not a general contractor. If you are, that's great. But you definitely want to set up a separate LLC, get a separate tax ID, and make sure you're completely separate from it, and so is your brokerage company. Okay, just kind of words to the wise here. Okay, let's see. We got another one. This is Greg. Hey, Greg, how you doing, buddy? Okay, what you want to pay attention to when getting vendor names use the one whose name comes up several times. These are the vendors I refer. Thanks, Greg, for sharing that. This is Greg Covington, guys, from Tidewater, Virginia, and he's a veteran agent with a lot of experience, been in the game a long time, working with investors, and of course, one of our veteran students. So thanks, Greg, for sharing that, and you're absolutely right. The names that pop up repeatedly, they're definitely those are your safest bets. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, let's get back here. So moving on, we're almost done here, guys, with this segment. So don't worry, I know we're right around 8 o'clock. The last thing I want to show you is all these reports, all these rehab sheets that are in your material. You've all got them. You should all have downloaded them to your hard drives. Just print them off and keep a few sets with you, and give these to your clients. So in your classroom, when you're putting on the class, take a bunch of these with you, at least one per student, okay? And there's multiple forms. There's one form here. All right, here's a form here. Okay, different versions of looking at things. All right, here's a nifty handy dandy chart. I think I gave this out. I think this is in your material too. Okay, this is like a cost spreadsheet. Once you've filled out these, you transpose the information down here and tally everything up and total everything up. Okay, just hand these out to your students. You can walk through a few examples. It's real easy. You just make up some numbers, but more importantly, they have this when they go out to look at the properties with you, and they fill them out as they go through. Okay, and they've got everything. Then they've got all the tools you need. So this is why we cover flipping first, because flipping is actually conceptually very easy to teach and demonstrate. So just to wrap up here, I'm not here to teach you content tonight on how to flip homes. I just want to show you how you actually teach this to your clients in the order you need to go in and what things you emphasize. And here's the final piece we want to emphasize. All right, ARV, just like it says, you must not exceed this. If you know what your ARV is, then you know how to do the AMAO formula. So ARV is first. Again, $100,000 is what we believe is the value of a property after it's been rehabbed. Okay, we know we need 30% cushion, which is your profit and overhead. 20 for profit, 10 for overhead. So you reduce that. Now you're left with $70,000 in this example. You add up your repairs, and your client's doing this, of course. That comes to say $10,000. You subtract that from the 70, and you're left with an MAO or $60,000. And you make sure you wrap up the night with this. That's the last thing you show them that night. Okay. Now, at this point, you want to prime them for the next meeting or the next class. The next class you're going to teach them is how to determine what is a good rental. And I'm going to go over that with you next week on how you actually carry that out. Okay. It is a little more complex than flipping, looking for flips, but at the same time, it actually has less risk. It's overall, there's risk in everything you do, but the risk in flipping is, man, if it doesn't go right, your client could be out of the water for good, forever. Okay. With rentals, it's very forgiving. I mean, you can improve properties so that you can improve the tenancy in the properties, which means you improve the rents and therefore have a more sane life with less gray hair and more profit. Okay, you have far more control over that. With flipping, you're at the mercy of the market. With rentals, it's far more consistent, steady, and reliable. So in any case, rentals are more complex to teach, but less risky for your clients and for yourself. All right, we'll do that next week. The third week, we'll go over wholesaling. In the fourth week, we'll go over what you do out in the field with them. Okay, and we'll go over some marketing and some promotional information in the fourth session also. So that's going to be tonight's the third. The next one is next Thursday on the 12th. Then we got Tuesday the 17th, and I believe the last one will be the 24th, which is a Tuesday. I haven't set that in stone, but I believe it's going to be May 24th for the fourth meeting for May, and the fourth of this 4-part series. So again, if you're brand new and you're wondering why are we going over this tonight, remember the webinars are designed to go over anything that you guys want. This is a subject that's come up a lot lately in conversations, so I decided to make this the end of the marketing series. So if you have questions, by all means, let me have the questions prior to the webinars, You can certainly type them in your question box during the webinars, and I'll go over them. But the more in advance I have your questions, the more I can prepare for these webinars. Now, by default, the next 4 weeks is going to be taken up largely by this process. However, we'll still work in some Q&A. Don't worry about that. And again, if you're brand new, once you get your membership, it might take a week or two. You get the training material, of course, but it may take a couple weeks before you get your access to the student area, the membership area. Then you can go back and listen to any recording that you want to. They're all cataloged by subject matter. Okay, you can go in there and pick anything you want, download it, listen to it, and watch it all you want, and master any particular subject that you want. You'll find multiple recordings pretty much for any subject that you want. So, okay, guys, let me check for questions one more time. Again, for all of you folks, the brand new folks like Janice, and the veteran guys like Greg, boy, I can't thank you enough for being on here, because you both bring value. Janice, at some point you'll be like Greg, and you're going to add a lot of value, probably very quickly, because I've already spoken to you and I know what you're capable of. So how's that for pressure, Janice? So in any case, you guys are doing great. I appreciate the feedback that I get on the text messages and the phone calls that I get. Whenever you're ready for your next one-on-one, please let me know, and we'll get that scheduled for you, and we'll go over one of the marketing campaigns, whichever one you choose. Okay? All right, you guys have a wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you. Is Jana on too? I see Janice, and I didn't see Jana's login. Maybe you guys are together. So, okay, awesome. So I got it. You both on that. It's even better. 2 for 1. So both of you guys are going to rock it, particularly in the Hilton Head area. Anybody looking to invest in Hilton Head, or have clients who want to invest in Hilton Head, we've got students down there now, and they're actually on the webinar. So look them up, get the information from Beverly, and get some referrals going between yourselves. Okay, guys, good night. God bless you, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.